I rushed into the sitting room of my father's house, expecting to finally hear his last wishes read aloud. But my brother Cole stepped in front of me, pressed his palm against the doorway, and shoved me backward. Through the wide French doors, I saw him turn to my Aunt Marlene and cousins, smirking. "She's not supposed to be here. She can't ruin this." Humiliation burned through me as he blocked my way. My aunt folded her arms smugly, and my cousin Holly looked away. Cole mouthed, "You don't belong here." I stumbled back into the hallway, my chest tight with anger and confusion. This was my father's will reading. How could they lock me out? My hands trembled as I tried to process what just happened. The mahogany door clicked shut in my face, sealing me out of my own family's most important moment. I pressed my ear against the wood, hearing muffled voices inside. "Before we continue, tell us where you're watching us from so we know we're not alone on this. My name is Eva Pierce. I'm 27 years old, and that was the moment I realized my own family wanted to erase me." I gathered my courage and pushed the door open again, demanding answers. Cole's face twisted with rage as he blocked me once more. Inside the sitting room, he turned to Dad's lawyer, Mr. Bryant, and said loudly, "She's not a rightful heir. Dad never intended her to be part of this." A total lie. My father loved me. He told me so 100 times. I heard Aunt Marlene whisper to Holly, "We have to keep it all under Cole's control." My stomach churned. What were they planning? Mr. Bryant adjusted his glasses and looked uncomfortable. He shuffled through papers on the mahogany table, his expression troubled. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and I saw something there. Doubt, maybe, or knowledge. It was almost like he knew something they didn't. Cole noticed the lawyer's hesitation and stepped closer to him, speaking in a low, urgent voice. I couldn't hear the words, but the tension in the room grew thicker. Something was wrong here, something they were hiding from me. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered cautiously, and Mr. Bryant's voice came through in a hushed whisper. "Eva, your father changed the will just a week before he died. You need to know the truth." My heart pounded against my ribcage. What truth? What did he change? Before Mr. Bryant could answer, I heard a door slam somewhere in my apartment. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Cole's voice cut through the silence. "Who are you talking to?" He must have followed me home. Panic flooded my chest as I clutched the phone tighter. Mr. Bryant went silent on the other end. Cole burst into my living room, his face red with fury. His eyes locked onto my phone. "Hang up! Now!" My finger hovered over the end call button, but I hesitated. Did he just realize something was wrong? Did he know about the changes Dad made? The lawyer's breathing was still audible through the speaker. Cole lunged forward, trying to grab my phone. The next morning, Mr. Bryant agreed to meet me at a small coffee shop across town. We sat in a corner booth, away from prying eyes. He leaned forward and explained everything. "Your father suspected someone in the family was manipulating him, specifically Cole." I listened, barely breathing. Mr. Bryant continued. "He inserted a special clause in his will, hidden from everyone, even me, until he called me in privately that final week. The clause required the heir to prove loyalty and integrity through specific actions and evidence. But the details were sealed until certain conditions were met. Dad had predicted betrayal and planned for it. He knew someone would try to steal what rightfully belonged to the person who truly honored him. Tears stung my eyes as I realized how much my father had suffered in his last days. He must have felt so alone, surrounded by people he couldn't trust. Mr. Bryant slid a sealed envelope across the table. He left instructions. "Follow them carefully, Eva. This is your only chance." I started digging through Dad's old files at home, searching for anything unusual. That's when I found hospital admission forms from his final week. The signatures looked like Dad's, but something felt off. The letters were too shaky, the loops too wide. I compared them to earlier documents. They didn't match. Someone had forged these papers. My blood ran cold. I drove to the hospital and found the nurse who had cared for Dad during his last days. Her name was Kathy, a kind woman with tired eyes. When I mentioned Dad's name, her face went pale. "Your father seemed scared," she admitted quietly. "He kept saying someone was trying to take over. He asked me not to let certain visitors in, but I couldn't always control it." She glanced around nervously before adding, "He requested a private meeting with his lawyer the day before those forms were filed. I remember because your brother got very angry about it." My hands clenched into fists. Cole had been manipulating Dad, even on his deathbed. I sat in Dad's old study, surrounded by memories. The walls were lined with photos of us, me as a child, sitting on his shoulders, both of us laughing. He used to tell me, Eva, money brings out the worst in people. Never let it change who you are. Those words echoed in my mind now, painfully relevant. The door flew open, slamming against the wall. Cole stormed in, his face twisted with rage. Step away from Dad's things. He marched toward me, reaching for the stack of documents in my hands. I tried to hold on, but he yanked them away roughly. Papers scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. One single page slipped from his grip and landed near my feet. I grabbed it quickly before he could react. It was a bank statement dated 6 days before Dad's death. At the bottom was Dad's signature, clear and strong. Nothing like the shaky forgeries I'd found on the hospital forms. Cole's eyes widened when he saw what I was holding. Give that back, he demanded, but his voice wavered. I needed answers, so I cornered Aunt Marlene at the grocery store 2 days later. She tried to walk away, but I blocked her path with my shopping cart. Why did you help Cole lock me out? I demanded. She looked around nervously, clutching her purse. Your father didn't know how to handle the business anymore. I had to help make decisions. I stepped closer, my voice low and firm. Help or protect Cole. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her scarf. For a moment, I thought she'd walk away. But then her shoulders sagged and she whispered, Cole made me. He said if I didn't support him, he'd cut me out too. I have medical bills, Eva. I couldn't afford to lose access to the family money. Guilt flashed across her face. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She hurried away before I could respond, leaving me standing alone in the cereal aisle. My aunt had betrayed me out of fear, but that didn't excuse what she'd done. I followed Cole one afternoon, staying far enough behind that he wouldn't notice. He stopped at a small cafe downtown and sat at an outdoor table, phone pressed to his ear. I hid behind a newspaper stand, straining to hear. She can't know what Dad discovered about me, he said, his voice tight with panic. My pulse quickened. What had Dad discovered? Cole continued, if that clause gets activated, I lose everything. We need to make sure she never finds those items. He paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. I don't care what it takes, destroy them if you have to. My mind raced. What items? What clause details was he talking about? Cole's tone grew more desperate. She's asking too many questions. The lawyer's getting suspicious too. We're running out of time. He ended the call and sat back, rubbing his face with both hands. For the first time, I saw real fear in my brother's expression. He knew I was uncovering the truth, piece by piece. Dad's study had always been his sanctuary, filled with books and memories. I remembered a painting he loved, a landscape of mountains at sunset. Something made me examine it more closely. I carefully lifted the frame from the wall and my breath caught. Behind it was a small wall safe, dark green and sturdy. My fingers trembled as I tried the handle. Locked, of course. I needed the combination, but Dad never told me about this safe. Inside could be anything, documents, money, or the items Mr. Bryant mentioned. I pressed my ear against the cold metal, listening for any hint of what might be inside. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. My heart jumped into my throat. What are you doing in Dad's study? Cole's voice came from the doorway, sharp and accusatory. I spun around, still holding the painting frame. His eyes moved from my face to the exposed safe, and his expression darkened. Step away from that. Now. I waited until Cole left the house the next day, then returned to the study. This time I tried Dad's birthday as the combination. The safe clicked open. Inside was a flash drive and a thick envelope. I grabbed both and ran to my car. At home, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop with shaking hands. A video file appeared, dated 1 week before Dad died. I clicked play. Dad's face filled the screen, looking tired but determined. He sat in Mr. Bryant's office, speaking directly to the camera. If anyone challenges my will, only the one who proves loyalty and integrity through specific evidence will inherit everything. I've hidden items that will reveal the truth about my children's character. My throat tightened. Dad continued. Cole doesn't know the details of this clause. No one does except Mr. Bryant and now, hopefully, Eva. Follow the instructions I left. Trust the process. The video ended. Cole had no idea what he was up against. Dad had protected me, even from beyond the grave. The next morning, I returned to Dad's house early. I searched his bedroom for the envelope I'd seen in the safe. But when I got there, I found Cole in the room, holding torn pieces of paper. My father's letter shredded. Cole looked up with a cruel smirk. Your father didn't trust you, this proves it. He tossed the pieces at my feet like confetti. Rage burned in my chest, but I stayed calm. After he left, I knelt and carefully gathered every scrap. Most of it was destroyed beyond recognition, but one piece remained intact enough to read. In Dad's handwriting, it said, Prove who truly honors my legacy. Those words were enough. Dad wanted me to demonstrate my character, not just claim my inheritance. I took a photo of the fragment and tucked the original in my pocket. Cole thought he'd won by destroying the letter, but he'd only made me more determined. I would prove myself worthy of Dad's trust. I needed more evidence, so I contacted the hospital and requested security footage from Dad's final days. It took 3 days and a lawyer's letter, but they finally sent me the files. I watched hours of footage, fast-forwarding through empty hallways. Then I saw it. Cole standing at the nurse's station, arguing with Kathy, the nurse I'd spoken to. The video had no sound, but his body language was aggressive, pointing, leaning forward, towering over her. Kathy looked terrified, shrinking back against the counter. She kept shaking her head, but Cole wouldn't stop. Finally, she pulled out some papers and signed something. Cole snatched them and walked away. I felt sick. He'd threatened her into signing those forged hospital documents. This was proof of his manipulation. I made copies of the footage and sent one to Mr. Bryant immediately. The reply came within an hour. This changes everything. Keep gathering evidence. We're close. Cole's downfall was beginning, and he didn't even know it yet. I met with Mr. Bryant again at his office downtown. He spread papers across his desk, explaining the clause in detail. Your father created a test. To activate the inheritance, you must gather specific items he left behind. Each one proves your loyalty and integrity. I leaned forward. What items? Mr. Bryant checked his notes. A flash drive with his final testimony, hospital records showing the truth, his personal journal. And one more item I can't reveal yet. He said you'd know it when you found it. I had the flash drive and the hospital footage, but I didn't have the journal. Where would he keep a journal? I asked. Mr. Bryant shrugged. He didn't tell me. He said it would be somewhere only someone who truly knew him would think to look. I closed my eyes, thinking of all Dad's favorite places. Then it hit me. The storage unit. He'd rented 1 year ago for old business files. I know where it is, I whispered. Then go, Mr. Bryant urged. Time is running out. The storage facility was on the edge of town, rows of orange metal doors stretching into the distance. I found Dad's unit, number 42, and unlocked it with the key I'd kept from years ago. Inside, boxes were stacked to the ceiling. I started digging through them, childhood photos, old tax returns, business records. Then, in a box labeled personal, I found it. Dad's journal, leather-bound and worn. I sat on the concrete floor and opened it carefully. The entries from his final months made me cry. I must test their character, he wrote. Cole has shown his true nature, greedy, manipulative, willing to lie. But Eva, my sweet Eva, has always stayed true. I pray she finds this and understands why I did what I did. Page after page detailed Cole's schemes. Dad had known everything. He'd predicted the betrayal exactly, down to Cole trying to forge documents and control the family. My father had suffered in silence, gathering evidence, preparing to protect me even after death. I held the journal to my chest and wept. Armed with the journal, I decided to confront Cole directly. I found him at Dad's house, going through financial statements in the office. We need to talk. I said firmly. He barely looked up. I'm busy. I slammed the journal on the desk. Dad knew what you were doing. He wrote it all down. Cole's face went white. He grabbed the journal and flipped through it frantically. Page after page documented his lies, his manipulation, his theft. Where did you get this? He demanded. I crossed my arms. That's not what matters. What matters is that I also found records showing you drained Dad's business accounts. Over $200,000 moved to your personal account 2 weeks before he died. Cole's hands shook. Before he could respond, Aunt Marlene walked in. She must have overheard us. Cole needed that money, she blurted out, then immediately covered her mouth. Cole shot her a furious glare. Shut up, Marlene. But it was too late. She'd just confirmed everything. The room fell silent except for our heavy breathing. Later that week, I discovered why Cole hated me so much. Mr. Bryant showed me documents Dad had filed 6 months before his death. Dad had secretly restructured his nonprofit organization, the one he'd built from nothing over 30 years. He'd named me as his successor, the person who would carry on his charitable legacy. Cole had expected to inherit the nonprofit along with everything else, but Dad had cut him out completely, putting me in charge instead. Your father knew Cole would destroy the nonprofit for profit, Mr. Bryant explained. He wanted someone with a good heart to continue his work. I remembered Cole's rage when Dad announced some business changes at a family dinner months ago. He'd stormed out, refusing to speak to Dad for weeks. Now I understood why. Cole had discovered he was losing control, and he couldn't stand it. He'd tried to force Dad to remove me from the nonprofit leadership, but Dad refused. That refusal had pushed Cole over the edge into forgery and theft. Mr. Bryant called me urgently the next morning. "Eva, I figured out what the final item is, the one your father mentioned." I gripped the phone tighter. "What is it?" He paused. "Proof of loyalty, not words, but actions. The flash drive recording counts because it shows your father trusted you. But he also wanted evidence that you'd act with integrity even when no one was watching." I thought back over the past weeks. I'd gathered evidence honestly. I'd confronted Cole without destroying him publicly. I'd protected Dad's memory. "I think I've done that," I said quietly. Mr. Bryant agreed. "The flash drive is that proof. Bring everything to my office tomorrow. We'll activate the clause." That night I could barely sleep. But around midnight I heard glass breaking downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and saw a figure in my living room, searching frantically. Cole. He'd broken into my apartment to steal the flash drive. I called the police and watched from the shadows as he tore through my desk drawers. I couldn't let Cole find the flash drive. I'd hidden it in my car, but he didn't know that. I crept down the stairs silently as he ransacked my living room. "Looking for something," I said loudly. Cole spun around, his face twisted with desperation. He lunged toward me, but I stepped aside and he tripped over the coffee table, crashing to the floor. The impact knocked the wind out of him. I grabbed my phone and held it up. "The police are already on their way, and the flash drive isn't even here." Cole struggled to his feet, breathing hard. His eyes were wild, cornered. "You don't understand," he gasped. "I need that money. I have debts. I made investments that went bad. Dad was supposed to leave me everything." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered Kathy's terrified face, Aunt Marlene's guilt, Dad's suffering. "You made your choices, Cole," I said coldly. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Cole realized he'd lost control of everything. He collapsed onto my couch, defeated. The official will reading was rescheduled for the following Monday. This time, I walked into Dad's sitting room with my head held high. Mr. Bryant stood at the front, a sealed envelope in his hands. Cole sat in the corner, his lawyer beside him. Aunt Marlene and Holly were there too, both looking uncomfortable. Mr. Bryant cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I must inform you all that this will has an unusual clause. Mr. Pierce updated it 1 week before his death, and the new version is sealed." He held up the envelope. "According to his instructions, this envelope could only be opened once certain conditions were met." Cole leaned forward. "What conditions?" Mr. Bryant looked directly at me. "Eva Pierce was required to provide specific items proving her loyalty and integrity. She has successfully done so." I placed the flash drive, the hospital footage, Dad's journal, and the letter fragment on the table. Cole's face went ashen. Mr. Bryant broke the seal on the envelope and pulled out the updated will. "We can now proceed," he announced. Mr. Bryant began reading the will aloud. The room was so quiet I could hear everyone breathing. "I, Harold Pierce, being of sound mind, do hereby declare that my estate shall be inherited by the child who demonstrates loyalty, honesty, and integrity above all else." Cole shifted in his seat, his confidence crumbling. The lawyer continued. "I have observed both of my children carefully. One has shown greed, manipulation, and dishonesty. The other has remained true to our family values, even when it would have been easier to walk away." Tears filled my eyes. Dad's words from beyond the grave felt like a warm embrace. "Therefore, I leave my entire estate, including my home, my business holdings, my investment portfolio, and leadership of the Pierce Foundation, to my daughter, Eva Marie Pierce." Cole shot to his feet. "This isn't real. He couldn't have been in his right mind." His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but Cole shook him off. Mr. Bryant remained calm. "Your father anticipated this reaction. That's why he documented everything so thoroughly." Mr. Bryant stood and connected the flash drive to a projector. Dad's face appeared on the wall, and everyone fell silent. The recording showed everything: Dad explaining his reasons, the forged documents, Cole's manipulation. Then the hospital footage played, showing Cole threatening Nurse Kathy. Next came pages from Dad's journal, projected large enough for everyone to read. Each entry detailed Cole's lies, his theft from the business accounts, his attempts to control Dad's final days. Aunt Marlene covered her face with her hands. Holly stared at her cousin in horror. Cole's face turned bright red. "This is edited, she faked this." But his voice lacked conviction. Everyone could see the truth. Mr. Bryant played one final clip, Dad's voice, recorded just days before his death. "If Cole is watching this, know that I loved you, but love doesn't mean enabling destruction. Eva, thank you for staying true. You are my legacy." The video ended. Cole screamed, "This isn't real." But Mr. Bryant's response was ice cold. "You broke the law, forgery, theft, coercion. The evidence is overwhelming." The lawyers worked quickly. Within 2 weeks, all of Dad's assets were officially transferred to my name. The house, the business investments, the nonprofit, everything. I sat in Mr. Bryant's office, signing document after document. My hand cramped, but I didn't care. This was justice. Cole's lawyer had advised him not to contest the will. The evidence against him was too strong. He could face criminal charges for the forgery and theft. Aunt Marlene stopped by my house one evening looking 10 years older. She didn't ask to come in. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she said quietly. "But I am sorry, Eva, truly." I nodded but said nothing. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple apologies. Cole, on the other hand, left town without a word. I heard from Holly that he'd moved across the country trying to escape the shame. He'd lost everything, his inheritance, his reputation, his family connections. Justice had spoken, and its voice was final. I felt no joy in his downfall, only a sad sense of closure. I returned to Dad's house, my house now, and walked through each room slowly. So many memories lived in these walls. I found Cole's belongings still scattered in the guest room where he'd been staying. I packed everything carefully and had it shipped to his new address. No drama, no revenge, just quiet closure. In Dad's office, I sat at his old desk and opened the estate documents. The numbers were staggering. I'd inherited more money than I'd ever imagined, plus the successful business Dad had built. But I wasn't interested in luxury or showing off. I wanted to honor Dad's legacy properly. Mr. Bryant stopped by that afternoon with one final envelope. "Your father left this for you personally. I was instructed to give it to you only after everything was settled." My hands trembled as I took it. Inside was a letter, sealed with wax. I waited until Mr. Bryant left before opening it. I needed this moment to be private, just me and Dad's final words. I slid my finger under the seal and unfolded the paper carefully. Dad's handwriting filled the page, slightly shaky but still strong. "My dearest Eva," it began. "If you're reading this, then you've proven everything I always knew about you. You have a good heart, my darling girl. In a world that often rewards cruelty and greed, you've remained kind and honest." Tears rolled down my cheeks, dripping onto the paper. I wiped them carefully, not wanting to smudge his words. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from Cole's anger. I'm sorry I had to test you this way. But I needed to ensure my life's work went to someone who would use it to help others, not just themselves." He continued, "Live boldly, Eva. Don't hide your light. Use this inheritance to make the world better. Carry my legacy forward, but make it your own too. You're stronger than you know." The letter ended with, "I love you, my sweet girl. Always have, always will, Dad." I held the letter to my heart and cried, deep, healing sobs that released years of pain. This was the ultimate emotional payoff. Dad's love, his trust, his belief in me, all captured in these precious words. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated Pierce Foundation building, watching volunteers organize supply boxes for families in need. I'd expanded Dad's nonprofit, hired a dedicated staff, and created new programs he'd only dreamed about. The foundation now provided scholarships, job training, and emergency assistance to hundreds of people each year. I'd kept Dad's house, but redecorated it to reflect both his memory and my own style. His study remained exactly as he'd left it, a shrine to his wisdom and love. Cole never reached out. I heard through distant relatives that he was working a regular job, living quietly, slowly paying off his debts. Aunt Marlene sent a card on my birthday, but I didn't respond. Some relationships couldn't be repaired. Holly, however, apologized sincerely, and we'd started rebuilding our connection slowly. I'd learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, respect, and love. I cut off toxic people quietly, without drama or announcements. I simply focused on building a life Dad would be proud of. Every day, I honored his memory by living with integrity. And I finally understood what he meant about money bringing out people's true nature. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this.